Palm Spring here at Black Hat 2026. I'm here with Shahar Tal with Checkpoint Research, and we're going to talk about two pieces of research that were debuted here this week at Black Hat. And I'd love for Shahar to introduce himself, please.
Hi, and great to be here. My name is Shahar Tal. Quick 20 years in cybersecurity front lines, starting over with 1 decade in the Army, so Air Force, then Unit 8200. Then I joined Checkpoint. I led malware and vulnerability research. After a while, I joined Celebrite, where I led the company's research for about 8 years. Then I co-founded and was the CEO of a startup called Sayada. And as of recent, just a couple, few months ago, we were acquired into Checkpoint. So homecoming for me,
Yeah.
a full circle. But now I'm at the head of Agentic Security Innovation right here at Checkpoint, presenting super interesting research here at Black Hat.
Yeah, well, I'm just actually really pleased that I'm able to get somebody of your caliber to break down some of this really interesting research. Lucky Checkpoint to have you on the team. Um, I, I don't know what the presentations were officially called,
Yeah.
but the from what I understand, just the overview is that you guys took a look at AI frameworks and how the frameworks were vulnerable in a way that, quite frankly, I was extremely shocked to hear about and learn about. Talk a little bit about that presentation, that research,
Yeah.
and what you guys found out.
Yeah, so we were surprised as well. First of all, what's an AI framework, right? So, when you develop new AI applications, all those new agents, you are going to write that or develop that on top of a framework. So, there's the Google's Agent Framework or Microsoft's Agent Framework or LangChain, which is a widely popular open source alternative to that, I'd say. And there's quite a few of those. We have seen so much research. Oh yeah,
I just want to get. It took me a second, so I want to say. So there's the model,
yes,
and then there's the framework, and there are people who use that framework, and the people that use that framework to develop applications that can be used to take advantage of the model. The model
yeah.
being any number of. Yes, so go ahead.
Absolutely, you can pick and choose your models to work on top of your framework. The framework is really the infrastructure, the underlying orchestration layer that sits between those tool calls and orchestrates everything that's happening. Sometimes it's called the harness that keeps the memory. There's a lot of technical elements to it, but basically it is the one thing that runs the agent. The agent sits on top of. And now what we were surprised is, we saw so much research going into prompt injections and of the model jailbreaks and sometimes even abusing tool calls where there's a specific vulnerable tool that required to be configured or installed. And we thought, wait, we're kind of overlooking a major piece of software that all of us are, heavily relying on these days with agentic, being rushed to develop and be developed and
Yep.
deployed. And what if we found a vulnerability there? That would mean that every agent would be exploitable or vulnerable out of the box rather than requiring a single tool, to be installed or configured or whatnot. And what we found was quite staggering.
Yeah, no, I feel like one of the most salient examples that you shared with me
Yeah.
was around a PDF parser to where I mean I've been reading about PDF based exploits and parsers that have been exploited. I feel like that was 10 years ago, and yeah,
That's a
yeah.
perfect example because we're looking at a fancy new, 2026 AI agent, which is relying on, many, many moving parts, but sometimes also a 25-year-old PDF parser
Yep.
written in C, that's digesting each and every PDF that you're sending that agent. And that to us kind of symbolizes exactly this is the crux
Yeah.
because um, we have taken, it's taken us more than a decade, maybe 2 decades, to trust these web frameworks, right? All the web browsers and a lot of mitigations that have been put in place by the time we started trusting it with money and with sensitive data. We're doing that much, much faster with agents, even though it's a very short period of time.
So we all want a PDF parser at our AI, right?
Yeah.
But I think the point being is that describe the attack vector that was inherent and what would be able to be accomplished if you were
Yeah.
to send a malicious PDF to an agent that was created using, and I can't remember
Yeah,
which
that's right.
framework,
Yeah, that
but
was by CrewAI
okay, cool,
specifically.
yeah, yep.
And so the issue was that all it took was having this agent process that PDF. So upload it as part of the agentic workflow, point it at some directory where it should read all sorts of documents. And what happened when that vulnerability was triggered is we got remote code execution on the host that is running that agent.
Yep.
That's actually worse than controlling the entire agent, because it's controlling the machine that might be a host to more things on this network. But
So
it's
if so
also
so if I'm if
yeah,
I'm in accounting and I think
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
clever and I've created this agent that can parse 100 PDFs at once, everybody in accounting could be impacted by me downloading a malicious PDF that was well aware of the fact that the framework itself was vulnerable to this type of attack.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think we need to remember, when those agents are by design kind of given very wide permissions, because we want them to be useful. So we give them all the credentials and we give them all the data. But this is exactly what's making this so dangerous. And for us, it was really, why are people not looking into these frameworks much more right now? It's gonna be a few more years until we get to a point where these infrastructure, pieces of software are
Yeah.
more resilient, and we need to solidify those foundations.
The number of CVEs, the research that you guys did is absolutely equally as impressive in terms of the frameworks that you found vulnerabilities within. And the cooperation, I would say, probably with the vendors as well, God bless them, in terms of fixing these. So these
Yes,
are all
so
patched.
they
And
are
yeah,
all they are all patched.
talk to me about some of the vendors that you worked
Yeah.
with and how many CVEs you found,
Okay.
critical and or otherwise.
Sure. So there were a total of 21 findings that we cared enough to report, I'd say, and 12 CVEs were assigned. Many of them critical, CVSS 9.8, things that are recognized by the vendors, who also, to their benefit, they paid very respectable bounties in recognition for the effort and for finding those critical vulnerabilities. Now, it went kind of a few different ways with the different vendors. Um, most of them were very quick and professional. With some cases, we had to do, like, back and forth, which is,
Yep,
you
yep,
know, we're kind of used to it by now
yeah,
with
yeah.
with disclosures, um, and with some of them we had quite a few discussions around CVE assignment, basically, because um, you know some can claim that we're not assigning CVE by policy, and we're not assigning advisories. However, for us, we thought that was a wrong call. Um,
Let me ask
yeah,
you this. I mean, is that, I mean, the idea that a vendor doesn't want to issue a CVE, the idea that there's a little push and pull. I mean, that's not new. I mean, that's
that's
that,
yeah,
that's
it's funny.
that's standard course.
Mhm.
Am I not mistaken? I mean, or did you see that, like, this sort of this new area, or were they just so embarrassed? Maybe they were just like, listen, I don't know. I'm just wondering if AI
No,
is,
I don't think there's, this is, like, I guess, fairly standard
yeah,
disclosure
okay, okay.
processes, and I'll give it to, everyone we discussed. Eventually, we have a good professional response, even if it took a while.
Yeah.
We it was very important for us to get it fixed,
Right.
right? Because that's software everyone's relying on.
So the good news is that there's a story next to this video or adjacent where we're going to dive in. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the research, but I want to quickly talk, and we're probably not going to be able to give it justice, is the Cloudflare research, which again, it's like, holy cow. Like, I couldn't, I felt like it was really interesting research, and you better just, just dive right
Yeah. I
in.
mean, I can maybe spend 60 seconds on that. With Cloudflare, we set out to research Code Mode, which is kind of a new architecture that they released late last year around how models should be calling tools.
Okay, so if you're a Cloudflare customer
Yeah.
and you're on their platform,
You're developing a new agent.
and you're
you would
developing
use
a new
that.
agent. So these would be developers, not necessarily the end user using the framework. And you have your instance uh,
On the Cloudflare
in the
Edge.
Cloudflare
Yes.
Edge. Okay,
Yes.
okay. And so you're going to use a tool that Cloudflare has deployed called Cloudflare
So Code Mode.
Code Mode. Okay,
Yeah.
so you may be a tenant with many people within that instance, but now I think we've teed it up for you to talk a little bit about what you found.
Yeah. No, right. So that actually shares a runtime, a sandboxing runtime called Workerd, which
This is the Cloudflare.
that's the cloud that is shared infrastructure to all of Cloudflare's workers.
Okay.
That is much wider than the agent or code mode, but it also affects code mode.
Okay.
Okay. And so we looked into that, and quite quickly we found five very interesting vulnerabilities. Two of them were critical, acknowledged very quickly by Cloudflare. With one of them we were able to break kind of the most basic promise of this sandbox,
Yeah.
is to prevent cross-tenant contamination or
Yes,
leaks.
yes.
And we were able to steal any secret or private data from another tenant running on the same machine, the same process.
Talk a little real quickly about the complexity of the attack that was needed. I'm sure the research was very in depth, but I wonder, when you think about the CVE scoring in terms of complexity, I think there's an interesting backstory on the CVE. We could get into that in the article, but in terms of how this would be exploited, talk a little bit about that.
So that's it's actually easier when, once you realize the research is deep, but the exploitation is pretty easy. You need to upload our attacker controlled JavaScript to a Cloudflare worker,
Yeah.
and then the full exploit payload runs. It takes less than half a second.
Yep.
And we've read everything on that machine.
Okay.
That's the exact.
Okay, I mean that's something good to leave people with in terms of, if you were interested, go to Checkpoint, come on over to Security Point Break. I just want to thank you so much for taking a quick minute. I know you're extremely busy, and I do have to point out, I like the way that our shirts almost kind of match. Not intentional. But thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm going to run off. There's so much more and a great session for us today.
All right.
So,
well, I look forward to hearing what you guys are doing at DEF CON and at the rest of the show today. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bye.
That's it.